What is up, guys, and welcome to the Meeple Minded Podcast, the podcast where we talk all things tabletop gaming. My name is Jason.
And I'm James.
And I'm Ant.
I'm determined to throw you off one day when I do this.
Why throw me off?
Because you're the one copying me.
We both did it this time.
You did, to be fair. But
one of these days we'll throw you off it.
You will. I feel I'm kind of programmed to do it.
It's happened more than once. He just edits it out.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
Exactly. We restart the recording, all that kind of...
But you still did it in one take. I'm impressed.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm so used to it now. So
that's the issue.
What you've got to do now is actually stop for a couple of weeks and then restart, because that'll catch me out. So.
That's true.
The real question is, Jason, are you happy we're recording, considering the slight technical glitch that we had before Anthony turned up?
Yeah, we haven't actually talked to Anthony, but just while we were waiting for you to turn up, I was getting all the gear set up, and I turned on our lovely mix board here, and
it didn't work.
It didn't turn on.
No,
it didn't turn on. We tried 6 or 7 times. We did the usual thing. Is it plugged in? Yes.
We tried turning it off and on again.
Tried turning it on and off again. Unplugged it, replugged it, all that garbage. I even had to boot up my computer to plug it into the computer to see if it was the DC input that wasn't working.
Okay.
And it booted up. And I was like, oh no, the DC input's gone. So we put the DC input in while it was still attached to the computer, then unplugged the computer, and now it's working.
So it could cut out any minute now, essentially.
It could cut out any minute. But I think we're all good, because I've turned it on and off a few times since then. So
I was going to say, did you do the old cartridge test when you used to get your cartridge game out? And
Oh, God. You're showing your age there, Anthony.
This is it. No wonder today's age will ever live through that.
Oh, yes.
The wizardry. This is a complex piece of electronic equipment. How do we fix it? Blow on it.
Blow on it. Done.
Blow onto it and then push it into the slot a little bit harder than you usually would. Yeah.
People still do that these days, like they blow into their CD drives for their PlayStations or something. Yeah. It's still a thing. Yeah. I know it is. Come on.
Yeah. People just... We're born in that way.
All the old people listening to this, they go, yes, I lived through that.
Yes, I understand that reference.
There you go.
Yeah, you're assuming that anyone over the age of 40 actually listens to podcasts nowadays,
I hope so.
That's like my 6-year-old niece. Like, my parents still have some old VHS cassettes on a shelf. It's like,
really?
What's that? And I'm just sort of like,
yeah.
Oh, you'll never know.
Yeah.
Yes, you'll never know the heartbreak of putting your favourite film in the VHS player and it chews the tape up.
See, now, did
many and many a times I had to go through
Did you witness, though, just then, the clear ageism of James, because he forgot that shaking his head doesn't appear on audio?
That's true.
But it's an involuntary reaction. It's just like...
At least people can rewind and go, oh, he shook his head then.
Yeah. It was a day that I could shake my head on audio and you'd hear it.
Well, it's not my fault. It's not my fault you haven't got the correct sound effect on the soundboard.
What? A shaking head effect. Okay. I'll try and find that.
Wonder how that would actually sound.
I'm really not sure.
I really don't know.
There'll be someone out there that's done it for like ASMR or something. It's like, angry person shaking head. Oh no, they're really angry.
They'll send you the file, wouldn't they?
But anyway, how are you guys this week?
I'm all good. I'm nodding my head as I say this.
No?
I'm okay. All good.
Yeah, you sure you're nodding your head? It sounded very much like a shaking head to me.
No. This is a nodding head. Everyone's listening to me now going, yep, he's nodding.
All bobbleheads around the world unite. James, what about you? How are you this week?
Can't complain.
Yeah, good. How are you feeling knowing that we've got a topical coming up today?
Yes.
Yeah. Are you ready? Because I know the answer to this.
No.
See, this one I threw a bit of a curveball, didn't I?
You did.
Still only gave you a few hours notice,
as well as
tradition. And had a little bit more. We initially started discussing this about 24 hours ago.
At least, yeah. I said it as a joke, and then you're like, actually, that'd be pretty good. And I was like, no, don't actually do it. But now we're going to now. So.
Yeah, there you go. So
what is this? I know people can't see me pointing, but it's got notes on a Post-it.
It has. It's my Post-its. My Post-its with my ink.
I have to do this, otherwise when the episode plays, I'll realize it's in my head, but it doesn't come out of my mouth. So it's like, if it's in front of me, I can mention it now.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, Anthony's going old school with this one.
Yeah. And I'll just show you just in case, so you can be like, oh yeah,
he wasn't lying. Yeah. No, so we're interesting one today, I think. Weirdly, I've sort of done my notes, and they've come out more like a top 5.
Okay.
So
is it actually 5 notes?
It is. It's 5 things. So,
but it's not a top 5. Today.
Mine will sound like a top 5, but it's not a top 5.
Okay.
We probably could have done it as a top 5, but we're not. We're doing it as a discussion because I think there's things to discuss as we go through this. So, shall we?
Glad someone's going to set it up for us, James.
Yeah. Shall we consider going straight into the topical?
Are you ready, James?
I am. I think the main reason his is going to come out like a top 5 is because that's the format he used when he was writing his notes, and he went, "Oh, damn."
Yeah, that is exactly true. To be fair.
Well, I guess I'm ready too, then, James.
Okie dokie, let's do it. Alrighty, guys. So on this week's topical discussion, I think it's going to get quite personal, and I don't mean in a nasty way. I'm not going to start insulting you. As much as I would like to. But no, we're going to get personal.
Let's see how far this goes first.
Is this going to be one of those topical discussions that Anthony used to listen to and started shouting at his radio?
Yes.
Well, I hope so, because it'd be great to get that kind of reaction on the mic, you see.
You want me to shout at them?
Just think of the controversy. It'd be all over social media. Like, 3 idiots talking on a microphone start arguing. It's great. The internet thrives on that.
Excellent.
But we're not going to be all that personal, but we're going to be talking our personal feelings on what actually makes a game great or awesome or epic or whatever you want to say. But what
epically awesome, great game.
Exactly. What makes a game awesome, great, good, and all of that jazz that makes you really want to come back to a game. Now, this actually kind of follows on from questions we've had in the past on social media, messages, people talking to us about it in person, which, what goes through our mind when we're doing a game highlight or a game review and stuff like that. And, I think a lot of people kind of ask those questions because they automatically assume anyone who's talking about it on a digital platform is incredibly biased because they've probably received the game for free or they're being paid to do an advertisement or whatever.
A lot of YouTubers do, don't they? So.
Exactly. We've always made it abundantly clear that, first off, all the games that we have done here, we have bought with our own money, and the ones that we haven't, we have made perfectly clear that we have been giving them either for free or for the purpose of review or whatever it be.
But any game designers out there, please send us free copies. I wouldn't say no to one. Let's put it that way.
We'll say amazing things about your game. No, it's not how it works. But this for me is a very personal thing because when I am thinking about buying a game, I want to know that any kind of reviews I have consumed or whatever, I want to know that it's from the heart. I want to know that if they think that game is great, I want to know why.
If the review is from the heart, you're talking about.
Exactly,
right,
yeah.
Okay.
And I know from the way I do my sort of reviews, highlights, all that kind of jazz, I kind of have a 5 thing that really puts it in that great category. And if they don't meet at least, I'd say 3 of them, I don't think a game can be classed as great. It doesn't mean it's bad. And it doesn't mean I won't enjoy the game. But
it's not up to that level of greatness.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't think I could say it's a great game of all time sort of thing. So, there's obviously lots of things that it's a very open-ended thing. You could talk about mechanisms, you could talk about themes and all that kind of jazz.
It's such a wide spectrum for what you could define as. Everyone's different and everyone's a different gamer, aren't they?
Yes.
So
indeed.
It will be different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would like to think that, say, mine and James's list will actually be considerably different because James is a relative newbie as opposed to me, and yourself. We're all at different sort of levels in the hobby and different experiences within the hobby. So we probably have different outlooks on what makes a game great. So is this a discussion you think we can have?
Yeah.
Well, we're having it.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to have it regardless.
You
but
don't
then,
have a choice in the matter. But
yeah, it'll be interesting to hear people's take on what they perceive as greatness.
Okay.
So
nice.
Be interesting.
So yeah, while my list is of 5 basic things, it is not a top 5 list for me, but just so happens there's 5 things that I want to cover. So the first question I have for you both is when I said we were going to cover this topic. What were your initial thoughts? Did you instantly go for something like mechanisms, or do you go for more of a fundamental game design? And what were your challenges thinking up what you wanted to say? Who wants to go first?
I don't know. I found I actually struggled with this one because I didn't know what angle to approach the question.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, you could go for mechanisms and themes and all that, but I think the angle that I'm going to come at this from is not necessarily looking at it through the lens we normally do, which is I'm going to review this, what makes it great. It's like it's more about gaming experiences from me.
Yeah.
Rather than, I know it seems a little odd, but not the physical game itself. It's like what stands out to me is that was great.
Yeah. So I know, because we obviously had a little bit of a discussion before we went live, James. I know you mentioned that you struggled because everything you thought of circled back to being, oh no, it's more about the people that I've played with.
It just became really difficult. But it's like, I mean, you brought up a good example. It's like, which both you and me agree on. It's like worker placement games. That's a mechanism we really like. But just because it's a worker placement game doesn't mean I'm going to think it's a great game.
No.
It's like, it's probably going to shift it more in that direction from the initial impression, but not all worker placement games are created equal.
Yeah, exactly. So, James, you're going from a more sort of one that's creating memories.
Yeah, from our standpoint of we always play the game at least 3 times before we put it up.
Yep.
You have to, so that we cover everything. Then,
so it's not necessarily this mechanism or this or this. It's like what made those 3 play sessions memorable.
Yeah.
What made it stand out compared to all the other games we've done.
Well, I mean, surely that means the main thing you want to talk about, James, is me. Because I make everything memorable.
Yeah, I know. It's a paradox, really, because like, I kept cycling back to, well, it's the people who make it memorable. And then I'm like, well, why am I playing games with Jason then? Because, you know.
It's true.
Well, that's very rude.
I can't say the second line. This is a family-friendly show.
You give the people the impression that we don't get on, James.
We don't. We've known each other for how long now?
That's enough. Be quiet. And
this is topical. Let him have him say.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Are you done, James? Would you like to say some other things?
Oh, that's very kind, Jason. No, the floor is yours, Anthony.
How to approach? I mean, this is the $1 million question for every gamer, really, isn't it?
It is.
I'm going to kind of use the same as James's, but I'm going to reverse it. So James has used the people for the experience. I like a board game that can deliver an experience. For starters, and that's one that gets the people that play it to be that character that they are playing. Like if it's a pirate game, we're all pirates. If they're
kind of like an immersive, something that gives you an immersive experience.
Yeah, but you can have that with D&D. You can have that with social deduction. You can have that with something like challenges because it's a very competitive game and stuff like that. So again, that's an option, but it's a very wide range of an option, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I just love a game that can, for a moment, I felt like I was a pirate, a Viking, or whatever for that an hour and a half we played. That's something I think is one of my personal factors of what makes a great game.
I could definitely agree with that, though, because, it is almost vitally important, really. Again, when we're talking about doing a game highlight, we always highlight as, was I immersed in the theme?
Right.
It's not something that's on my personal list, but I know where you're coming from because I definitely thought about it because I do think theme is important.
Yes.
But, for me personally, it's not one of those inherently vital things.
No, but it's it helps towards that decision.
Oh, 100%. Right. 100%, yeah.
I mean, if people just picked theme, or a gamer just picked a theme, then every game would be all about sci-fi horror or all about social deduction or all about
because you can sort of go, the theme. I think the theme makes everything. Okay, so I pick a theme. I really like Marvel. Well, I can tell you now, not every Marvel game is great.
And there you go.
And it's far from it, in fact. Whereas, say like a mechanism, you're probably going to get closer to the mark.
Yeah.
Again, going back to the worker placement side of things, I could sort of go, Dynagenics is amazing. Raiders of the North Sea is amazing. We talked about Fallout Shelter, which is a worker placement. They're all amazing. Do I think that mechanism makes all of those games great? No. But I can also appreciate why someone might go down the route of, I think the mechanism makes a game great and amazing. So for me, I feel like the actual fundamentals of board game design are where a game is made great or not.
Okay. So could you put mechanics into that equation? And
I would definitely say at some point in this list, it would definitely cover things like mechanisms and stuff like that. Right. So, I want to kick things off because the first thing I think that makes a game great is the ability for a designer to incorporate meaningful decisions within a game. Okay. And what I mean by that is you get a lot of games which might have some interesting decisions to make, but it doesn't inherently change the outcome of the game. Whereas if you can get something that has like meaningful decisions where everything I do makes a massive change to the game. So if I make a good choice, for example, I will be rewarded for my good choices. Whereas if I make a bad choice in a game, I'm going to be punished. I mean, obviously not too badly.
No,
but I want to know that what I do really affects the gameplay that I'm playing.
As you as a player or the game itself?
As me as a player, I guess if it's a cooperative game, then it kind of needs to affect everyone. But, sticking on a sort of me just being a player, I want to know that it affects me. And if I win that game, I've earned it. Whereas if I feel like I've just made a few decisions that ultimately the game already knows
right,
I'm going to make, that's not really my decision, is it? The game already knows I'm going to make it.
So I'm just going to throw this as examples. I'm trying to get where you're at.
Yep.
So again, could we mention it a few times? I'm going to mention it again. Worker placement.
Yep.
So you're going to place some meeple on a space that James needs.
Yep.
So it's good for you. It's bad for him. Are you using that as a sort of an example? Is that what you're trying to get at?
That is definitely a decision that would have to be made. So
James takes something from you?
Exactly. I've got a plan. James has scuppered those plans. Okay, but it's not the end of the world. I've got to change my plan slightly.
Right.
If there is a pivotal moment in the game, maybe in the closing moments of the game, and James does that, or maybe I've placed my worker somewhere, and before I've done that, I've thought to myself as I need to make a decision here because I can see that James is gearing up for the same thing that I am. I've got 2 workers. I need to do both these actions. And I decide to do it in an order.
Yeah.
If it turns out that doing it in that order has cost me the game, then I feel like that was a meaningful decision that I messed up on. I should have done it in this order. Or there's occasions where I've done something in the wrong order and just instantly gone, no, I meant to do it in the other order because now I can't do what I've needed to do. That might have just cost me the game.
So either way the reaction comes out, good or bad,
yep,
you're saying that the game is making you feel like you're trying to work it out or do that. That's what makes part of the game great.
Yeah.
Consequences. I want consequences to be built into the game.
Action and reaction.
Action, reaction.
Yeah, I got the impression that from Jason's description that what he's saying was he doesn't want the game to handhold him, or I don't know if guide is the right word, but basically if you get to the point where you feel like they've already predicted the path to victory and you're just going through the motions, it's like you want real consequences from making your decisions.
Yeah, it's like the game said, this is how you do it, Jason, but Jason's going to do it this way instead and still get, like you said, an outcome or a repercussion for it.
Or if you do try and step off the path, the game almost pushes you back onto it, sort of thing.
Yeah. And, this is the thing. I like some games to indulge me with some luck as well. A little bit of dice rolling is always nice. Obviously, if a game has too much of that, then meaningful decisions are very non-existent.
Yeah.
So, if we're going to be talking about, I don't know, zombie dice, then there's no meaningful decisions in that game whatsoever.
It's luck regardless.
Other than, should I risk it for a chocolate biscuit and go again? That's not a meaningful decision. It might cost me the game, but it's not like I've had to really sit and think about this.
Right.
So yeah, I think meaningful decisions is something that is something that if I find a game has a good amount of decision making in it that actually feels like it made a difference to the game,
right,
or even to my personal game, then yeah, I would say that is the first step to becoming a great game.
Interesting.
In my eyes.
Okay.
So that's my first point.
That's 1 out of 5.
Yeah, 1 out of 5.
We're doing well, James. We're doing well.
Do you guys have anything you want to add to that, or any kind of retort, or tell me I'm wrong?
No, I would actually agree with that.
Yeah. Okay.
So, sorry, are you trying to... So you've got the rules, but you're trying to think outside the rules. Is that what you're trying to get at as well?
I guess so, yeah.
Because that reminds me of the Steam Up review we did.
Yeah.
And you were like, this game makes me want to take food tokens. It's like, Jason, the game is to take food tokens. So it's like, can't think anything else out of it. But
see, that game, for example, is like, that doesn't fill me with like meaningful decisions.
No.
Like,
you've only got a choice 3 anyway.
You know, there is no meaningful decisions there. You know, the strategy is ultimately, you know, we're going to talk, you know, James, I know you're heavily into strategy.
Yeah.
Really, that's where that falls into this category for me. It's like, that's all part of strategy. It's not a strategy if you're not making a meaningful decision.
Yeah.
Because if you don't make the correct decision, you will suffer the consequences.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's one of the reasons I like strategy games so much, because it's not even a case of you'll be rewarded for making the right decision and punished for making the wrong decision. It's where you, like you said, with the luck element in a lot of them, it's like you might make the right decision and it still might not go well for you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I like that aspect of games where it's not from A to B to C to D and I've won.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good shout, mate.
Yeah. And, you know, to sort of analogize that again would be like when countries go to war, you know, it's very bad, all that kind of stuff. But as much as we can joke about it and say, oh, it feels like they're just rolling the dice on what they want to do, they're not. They're strategizing and they're making meaningful decisions as to what kind of attack are we going to do.
Yeah.
Are we going to flank them around the right? Are we going to flank them around the left? Are we going to come right up the back? You know, they don't just do these things on a whim. You know, that there's meaningful decisions in that. There's meaningful decisions that can be made as part of board games. And yeah, that's why it's kind of first on my list. It's not in any particular order, but
nice.
Yeah. James actually touched on one of my others while we were talking about that. And this is one I think we will all have a good discussion on, which was multiple paths to victory. If a game has multiple ways to win it, that instantly, for me, puts it on that right path to getting to great game status.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I think any game designer can do a game where, there's only one way to win. Whereas if you have worked your games and you've done that mathematical equation of 4, 5, 6, 7, 20 different paths that you could actually win a game, I mean, talk about replayability.
That's what makes a game, that really is what makes a game great to me. It's like, where's the fun in a game that once you've cracked the equation to winning, you could literally play it with your eyes closed?
Yeah.
Does that essentially make the game easier, though?
I wouldn't say it does.
Because you've got more than one way, then that does seem a bit like, I can do it this way, do it that way, and don't need to really do it that way.
But at the same time, does it not make the game more challenging? Because
I'd say it's more challenging just one way to win.
You don't know how someone's going to try and win. Like, how many times have we played a game, for example, that does have multiple paths to victory? Like Scythe, we use Scythe as an example.
I was literally about to pull that one out as an example.
You've got to do 6 different things, but there's quite a bit more than 6 that you can choose from. So,
but it's still 6 things. It's still one way.
It is
essentially.
Yeah, all right. So you still win one way, but it could be 6 different things. Like today, I'm going to do fight, achieve all my mechs.
Yeah.
Blah blah.
Yeah, I see where you're coming with that. Yeah.
Whereas next time, you might sit down to me and go, well, last time I know his game plan. He's going to do this, and I come along and go, nope, I'm doing this, and this, and you're caught off guard.
Okay.
You know, and there's so many games out there now that they're actually going more down that line of multiple paths to victory. I think it is hard because they're not always perfectly balanced. Which I don't mean to be plowing through mine, but that's another one of mine, is a game needs to be perfectly balanced.
Okay.
All right, Thanos.
But yeah, and that's a twofer. I will explain why in a minute. But a game needs to be perfectly balanced, and the multiple paths to victory kind of meshes into that. Because what's the point in having multiple paths to victory if this one is really easy, yet this one is really difficult? I'm always going to choose the easy one, aren't I?
Yeah.
Well, then that's not multiple paths to victory, is it? Because I'm always going to choose the same one.
But then if you want something harder for once, because you've always taken the easy one, you can just change it up and say, I'm going to do this instead.
You could, but if it basically means you're going to voluntarily lose the game. It should always be balanced.
It's just more difficult to get to there, isn't it?
Yeah.
But
yeah, so for me, game balance is a big thing. And I think that within that balance situation as well, I think player characters need to be perfectly balanced within games, as well as player abilities and all that kind of stuff. So again, to use Scythe as an example, all of the mission cards, for example, some of them are horrendously overpowered. Some of them are not. Why is they so? Why are they so different? I guess there's a little bit of a luck element to it.
Yeah.
I get that. That's fine. But especially when it comes to player characters, if they're not balanced, there's always whoever gets first dibs of characters. Of course, they're going to go for the powerful one. No one goes, oh yeah, I'm going to take the weakest one here. I've read through all of these. These look really powerful, but this one looks rubbish. I'll have that one. No one does that.
Yeah.
So balance is a big thing. So let's talk about balance, because I'm talking lots, and I don't like talking.
So are we still on the multiple wins to
multiple pass to wins, balance, whatever. You could talk about whatever. How do you feel about balance in games? Do you think that is a fundamental thing that makes a game great?
I mean, it has to be, doesn't it? It has to be balanced. Otherwise, if it was too OP either one way, why would you play it?
Yeah.
Unless you really want an easy ride of a game, or you want a hard time of a game.
Yeah.
If it's unbalanced, I think this is where the combination of both of Jason's coming in. If it's unbalanced and there's only a single path to victory, it just becomes a mad scramble to who's gets their hand on the proverbial ladder first.
Becomes a racing game.
Yeah, and that's
get there first.
I like that, because it's like, it sounded like your initial confusion was a lot of these games are a single victory condition, but there are multiple ways to get to that victory condition.
No, I mean, I was getting what you were saying there, but for me as a gamer, I think I prefer just the one victory path.
Okay.
Because that is a game that would require thought, strategy, challenge, and like Legendary, for example, I know there's only one way to win that, whereas the villain has multiple ways to win. The Rising games, one way to victory. And there's 3 different ways you can lose that and whatnot. Pandemic's another one. You win that one way, but you can lose so many different ways in that. Why do people play it? Because they want that. Yeah. They want to have that challenge. For me, that's how I like it. I do love games that do have multiple ways to win as well, but it depends what mood I'm in. If I want a challenge, I'll get Legendary out. If I want something easy, I'll get Scythe out. So
100%, I would definitely agree on that with regards to like a co-op game, for example. Yeah. There needs to be one fixed goal in something like a co-op game.
Yeah.
So I guess really I should have prefixed it by saying this is...
Maybe that's what I'm trying to get. I'm more of a co-op guy than, one person to victory.
Yeah, like I sort of think to like Ark Nova, for example. I think that if there was only one way to win Ark Nova, it would be boring as hell and wouldn't even be anywhere close. To
absolutely, that makes sense. Yeah, absolutely.
So competitive games require multiple paths to victory.
Yes.
Overall, as long as you've got there is obviously a victory condition. Everything is technically a one path to victory, and it's called winning. But as long as there's plenty of pathways that I can go, I can come to the fork in the road and turn right, or I can turn left. And then I turn left, and then there's another fork in the road, or I turn, I sort of go back to the Sega Mega Drive. It's like the Outrun map.
Yeah.
It's like it opens all the way out, but ultimately, as long as you get to the end, you've won. That's what I mean by multiple paths to victory. And again, all of those paths, in my eyes, should be balanced. Because I don't feel it's that age-old thing of this character is more powerful than this one. I'm going to choose the more powerful character.
Yeah.
Same with choosing that path to victory. This one's easy. This one's hard. I'm going to choose the easy one.
But I think from my point of view, I'm definitely with Jason on this one, on the multiple paths to victory, because I find those games more engaging. Because not only am I trying to decide and strategize as to how I'm going to win, it's a lot harder to sort of go, well, I wonder what route, because, I don't want Jason to win.
Yeah.
Or I don't want Ant to win.
Yeah.
But there's so many different ways you could win this. Right, what route are you going to do, and how am I going to deal with that?
Yeah.
It's far more engaging, and it's more likely to make me sit down and focus on the game.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And this is, where I can sort of say how I slipped straight from number 2 to number 3 here very, very seamlessly. And that's because so far all 3 of mine have all been tied together. So, multiple paths to victory. Well, there's a meaningful decision already. Well, it's like, well, which path do I take? Because if I take this path and I'm wrong, well, the meaningful decision was wrong. I should have taken the other path. It was easier, and they're perfectly balanced. Well, it doesn't matter which path I take then, does it? So is that a meaningful decision or is that an interesting decision?
Yeah.
Because if they're perfectly balanced, it's not meaningful because it doesn't matter what you do.
Or are you picking the other one because you've done the other one beforehand?
Exactly. Yeah. So interesting, meaningful decisions, two different things.
I actually have a question for you with regards to meaningful decisions.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that you want the game to sort of reward you for making a good decision.
Yes.
And punish you for being a bad decision. Now, do you mean you actually want the game to punish you, or would you rather a game that basically is going to make the other players punish? It's not so much the punishment doesn't come fixed from the game, but it also relies on the other players to recognize the mistake and punish you for it.
I mean, that would definitely make for an interesting game mechanic.
Yeah, because I think I fall into the latter. It's like, I don't necessarily want the game to default punish me. I still think it should be up to the other players to recognize that I've just made a misstep. Yeah, like life in general, really. It's like, I've made a misstep, but if you don't capitalize on that, I got away with it.
Yeah.
I could definitely agree with that, and it's a very good question because ultimately I say I want to be punished if I've made a bad decision. And no, I don't really want the game to punish me because that's basically taken that meaningful decision away.
Yeah.
Because then it's an interesting decision, because if I make the right decision, I can carry on. Whereas if I make the wrong decision and the game punishes me, then it wasn't a decision, was it? Because the game is going to stop me in my tracks.
Yeah, because what went through my head when I was thinking of that question was basically any game that involves a currency where you have to spend money. And you make that, we've all been there. We've made that bad decision where we've made a purchase and spent too much money and gone, oh, that was a mistake.
Yeah.
Now, I've played games where the game has punished me for that, where it's like, all right, you've spent too much too early, and now it's going to take you 4 or 5 rounds to actually build some cash out, and it's basically handicapped you.
Yeah. Do you know what? I would agree with something like a minor version of that. I don't think a game should be that punishing that it would take you that amount of time to recoup.
No, because it'll put you off the game then if you do that.
Exactly. Yeah. So, that instantly takes it out of the great game category because it's like, well, no, I didn't enjoy myself. I made one mistake and it it brutally
it's to get punished and enjoy.
But we've all played games that have done exactly that.
Yeah. And there's a reason they don't fall in my great game categories at the end of the day. So yeah, that's where I would go. Is I like games that will I guess highlight to other players that I may have made a mistake.
Yeah, but it's
not that I usually need a game to do that because I usually verbalize my mistakes.
We all do.
Yeah. But even then, it's just a sort of a frustrated sigh or something like that, and it's still up to the other player to go, all right, he's made a mistake.
Yeah.
What was the mistake?
Yeah.
I much prefer games where it's like that. It's like sort of, you've made a misstep, but it's up to everyone else to work out what it was and capitalize on it.
Yeah. Nice. Now, I'm going to shut up about my next two for a little bit because I think that these might appear on some of your potential lists that you've created or whatever, and I can see you've got a few things written down. What sort of things crop up in your mind that create a great game?
For me, so I love a good mechanic in a game.
Yep.
So I'm going to put Distilled out there for an example. Expo last year it came out. It is definitely not a game I would ever purchase, nor the theme would I ever think about doing it. But until I saw the demo and we saw the mechanic of mixing the drinks, mixing the alcohol and stuff, that really spoke out to me and just felt like, oh, this is something different. This is something I've not seen in a game before. There probably is. Again, I'm a noob at this. Guys, correct me if I'm wrong on that. But I felt that mechanic alone just made me want to buy the game.
Yeah.
And give it a go. I mean,
it gave you the feeling of great game material.
Yeah, I felt like that's something that I think everyone will enjoy as well.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, definitely mechanisms in games or a specific standout mechanism in a game is definitely up for me because then I know it's different from the rest of my games. It's not the same worker placement where you do this and that. This has actually got something different in it.
So now you actually said a few words there that I 100% agree with. I agree with everything you just said, but there was a few words that really stood out to me.
Okay.
And I just gave it away.
Oh, okay.
Standout mechanisms.
Oh, there we go.
That's a big thing.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like mechanisms are a thing. You know, they're a thing. They're in every game.
Absolutely, yeah.
But a standout mechanism, that's something of a great game.
Yeah.
Because if it's stand out, it means it's unique.
Yes.
Or it has a uniqueness to it. So that would be, for me, something that would be in a great game.
Yeah.
So that to me is fantastic. Yeah, you got it. You looked like you wanted to say something.
I would actually like to say one of mine because Ant's actually used the game. I was going to.
Oh, sorry, dude.
Going to use to. No, you're talking about mechanisms, and we've spoken about theme. For me, what makes a great game is how the two interact with each other.
So integration.
Yeah, absolutely.
How the theme and the mechanisms work together to create an immersive experience. And Distilled was actually one I wanted to highlight again for that mixing mechanic.
Oh, yeah.
Because it seems like the designers of that game have actually gone into great depths of actually learning how these spirits are distilled and where they've created that mechanic
and how it mixes
to
with,
try and
goes with that theme so well, doesn't it?
Yeah, to try and replicate it so the theme and the mechanics interact with each other perfectly. A contrast to that would be a game like Smartphone, which, let's be brutally honest, you could be making anything on that board.
100%, yeah.
It's just cubes.
Yeah.
It's, as much as we like that game and how it works,
it is relatively devoid of theme and doesn't really have much integration.
It feels like its theme was slapped on as an afterthought. You could be producing anything on that world map.
Yeah. Yeah, I can definitely agree with that.
So the theme and the mechanics don't really interact with each other.
Yeah.
Whereas, so that's what makes an absolutely standout game for me, when the mechanics directly interact with the theme.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now I would, going a little bit further into the integration side of things, and again, I'd like to get your guys' opinion on it. This is another reason why, while there are some good racing games out there, for example, it's why I don't feel like I've ever found a, air quotes, great racing game, because it's almost impossible to integrate that theme into mechanisms that will replicate an actual race.
Yeah.
You know, I know Ant's not a
without trying to rip off the other board game as well at the same time.
You know, I know Ant's not as big a fan of it as we are, but like Heat, for example, it's a pretty good racing game, but you're playing cards. It's not... Yeah. You're not taking on the role of a racer. You know, you're
not actually taking that car and look at it spin round.
But no, it's like nothing I've ever seen in any kind of game mechanisms would ever be able to replicate that immersion fully of being a race driver.
Yeah, I mean, another good example for theme and mechanics integrating well would be Flashpoint Fire and Rescue with its expansion.
Yeah,
because that expansion is what I think is the cherry on the cake for the way the fire behaves and spreads.
Yeah.
Is a really good way of replicating a spreading fire in a board game. And you feel almost panicked as a firefighter trying to put the fire out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you think that I know you've played the game with both with and without the tragic events expansion. It integrated its theme better with using that mechanism. So you feel like that mechanism kind of made that a great game.
The base game with the hotspots, it didn't feel like an imminent threat at spreading fire, where it was when they introduced that expansion and you got the cards and the rolling of the dice and the exploding fire going out. It's just like, okay, I'm feeling the theme a lot more. And it's a board game and I'm feeling panicked because I'm stuck in this room.
Yeah.
And this fire is getting very out of control very quickly.
Yeah. So like the integration, the only way you'd get a better theme from that is if you happen to set a fire behind you while playing the game, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah. Nice.
Jason, we play games in your house, remember?
Yeah. Well, let's not do that. Let's not do
fire
that.
Rage.
The fire rages.
So when a game can get its themes to interact with the chosen mechanics and the two fit together really well, that stand out to me.
Even if the components are a great mechanic, like Starship Captains, for example, where you're simply just bringing the guys round on the ship for the next person to be available, something like that is just even a nice touch at the end of the day as well.
Again, that is kind of like a nice integration, isn't it? Like the components is integrated because you're now imagining them going down a corridor.
Exactly,
what you're saying, yeah?
It's like, I mean, that's another good game as an example for that, but that mechanic is there because your crew who have gone down to the planet effectively need to rest, which is why they go into the corridor,
Absolutely,
and then pushed into the ready room in the next round because you've just sent them down to do a mission. Now they're off.
It goes with it.
Now they're off duty. It's like you need to cycle the crew.
Somewhat imagine them going into their staff quarters and stuff like that.
Yeah, in fact, that's what it's there to, and it does it very well. So that's another good example of mechanics that integrate well with the theme.
Nice, very nice. Anthony, a few more things on your list, have you?
You keep looking at my list. Stop looking at it. So I've got artwork as well.
Okay, yeah.
Artwork is another big thing for me. Especially again with the theme, it makes a whole lot of sense because if you're trying to do something that's too out there, like Dinosaur Island, for example, tried to go for it, but was too out there for that game.
Yeah.
Then they redone it again for Dinosaur World and made it even better.
Yeah.
So it makes a lot more sense. But when you look at artwork for something that can bring a table presence, there's another one on there, like Terrascape, for example.
Yeah.
Again, artwork and components for that stand out for it, which is another thing for me. Because again, I would never have seen that game if I didn't go, oh, what's that gaping massive house that's on the table?
Yeah.
I would never know what it was.
Nice.
So, I mean, sometimes I know a lot of gamers go with designer as well. Not me personally. It's a nice, it's done by this person, but there are gamers out there that go, oh, it's done by this guy. I must have this game.
Because this game is also
and not even
great.
know what the game is about.
Yeah.
So, and then the game gets too hyped up and for me, puts me off of it from time to time. So the designer part is a kind of an in and out sort of help towards a great game.
No, that's fair. That is definitely fair. And, picking up on the components that you talked about and the art especially, we always talk about art within games, right?
Yeah.
It's one of the first things we talk about whenever we do a game highlight. I do agree 100% art really does help towards making a game great, because you can have all the best mechanisms in the world. You can have the best gameplay in the world. If you have a game that looks like dog crap, then it's going to leave a sour taste in your mouth, right? And if
you still like the game, but like it could have been better if the artwork was.
It's just a if you've got an element of doubt in your, they always said it when you work in retail, for example, the most important time in retail is at the till point. If you get bad customer service at a till point, your whole experience was awful. So if the artwork is the last thing you're thinking about, or if you think to yourself, you've got an element of doubt in your mind of the game was really fun, but it really didn't look very good. You've got doubt in your mind, which means you can't put it in that this is a great game category. Despite the fact that it might be, gameplay-wise, the best game ever. You've got an element of doubt.
Yeah.
And therefore, a human brain cannot function that through as this is a great game.
And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of games out there, especially Euro games, that are very brown, beige, and grey by the look of them. I mean, like the original version of Castles of Burgundy isn't very attracting to look at.
No.
But now this new one's out, I'm like, I might actually want to give that game a go now. Do you know what I'm saying?
It's good that you brought it up because I was about to bring it up as well.
There we go.
So it's like, Castles of Burgundy. It's brown. It's horrible.
Yeah.
Brown, looks boring. Don't want to play it. I've played it a few times. Not really that interesting, but it's not a bad game.
Right.
But now that it's got its new version, so many people are playing it. Yet a lot of those people didn't before. Why? It's not like it wasn't hard to cut. It wasn't hard to come by. You could get it.
But
everywhere.
It wasn't the best looking, though, was it?
It just wasn't attractive. So clearly, components is a big thing, and artwork is a big thing. So while I don't personally have that kind of thing on my list, it is something that adds to a game being great.
Yeah, I mean, you've also got to take in the type of art for that game. Like we go back to Flamecraft in a couple of episodes, we mentioned how its artwork goes with the theme.
Yeah.
Could you imagine it being a different type of art style?
Could I imagine?
Would it have worked?
Would it have worked if it had been like a live action? Let's say
it's got Dungeons & Dragons type of artwork with Flamecraft. Do you think that game would have worked?
For what it is, no.
There we go.
No, I don't. I think the cuteness of that art is integral to that game.
Does challenges work? with that type of art? Could you imagine it looking a bit more realistic or whatnot? It just wouldn't work, would it?
No, it wouldn't be as appealing.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree. Artwork 100% definitely adds towards being a great game. James, you quite often comment about artwork. Are you in that same ballpark?
Yeah, I would agree 100%. Artwork, ultimately, artwork is probably what's going to sell you the game in the first place.
Yes.
Let's be honest, all those boxes lined up on a shelf when you go into your local board game store, what draws you to the game in the first place? Probably the artwork.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, the one I will give the main example here, won't talk about it too much because I've played it once many, many years ago, but unanimously voted one of the best games of all time was Food Chain Magnate. And
I've heard of it, I've never played it.
Yeah, my God, is that game dull.
Is it really?
It's so beige, and it literally is beige.
Right.
Like the original pressing of the game is so beige, and it is so unappealing. When Lucky Duck announced last year that they were going to do a special printing of it, everyone went mental because, oh my God, we can finally get a version of this game that looks
better,
the part.
Yeah.
And unfortunately they charged horrendous money for this special edition.
For Food Chain Magnate.
For Food Chain Magnate, which is why...
It was crazy money.
Yeah, I didn't... I was going to back it because I always thought to myself, I was like, no, I remember the game being pretty damn good and I'd love to play it again, but I'm not paying the crazy inflated prices of resellers. I would consider now, because I believe the original company is reprinting the original version.
Right.
So you can get it at a much more reasonable price, but I will be stuck with the beige, old, horrible art style.
Yeah.
That I could probably look over in order to play the game, but, to go back onto the point, that new special edition made me want that game.
Yeah.
Even though I knew what the mechanics...
It's back to what you're saying about Castle Burgundy.
Yeah.
It's like, it definitely proved, the proof is in the pudding, that it does attract older gamers as well as new.
Yeah. And I'm genuinely interested when that is eventually delivered to backers to see just how quickly that game becomes one of the best games of all time.
Right.
Because it's already got a cult following of people saying it is the best game of all time. Just a shame the artwork lets it down. Well, that's been solved. So now you're telling me the one thing that you said was bad is now gone. Does that not put it in category of best game of all time?
Yeah.
I guess we'll see. But I'm not sure when that's being delivered. So that'll be an interesting one when that turns up. But I'm going to bring up my next one now.
Go for it.
And I definitely think James will agree, and I think you will agree on this one. And that is good or usable downtime in a game. So what I mean by that is I don't want to be doing my turn in 30 seconds and then sitting there for 25 minutes while everyone else does their turns or whatever it be. I like games to be quick, sharp. 1, 2 actions, boom, on to the next player. 1, 2 actions, boom, done.
Yeah.
And it's back to me within a couple of minutes. Or if it is going to take a little bit longer, I want to know that I can do something in my downtime. Perfect example, going back to it, Scythe. First action I do, it affects the game. No one does their turn while I'm doing my first action. Once I've done that, on to the next player, I'm performing my second action, which doesn't affect the board. So there's a little bit of asymmetric play there. Asymmetric games immediately deal with that particular issue because you're doing stuff at the same time. Again, Distilled somewhat deals with that because the first few actions, you're all doing stuff at the same time. There's almost no downtime.
Yeah.
Obviously, games that have that long downtime, I really struggle to put them in great game category because I've spent 2 hours playing this game, but actually I've played about 45 minutes of it because the rest of the time I've been sitting here twiddling my thumbs, checking my phone, going out for a cigarette. I've nipped down the Chinese, ordered a takeaway, come home, eaten it, and it's now my turn again.
Yeah, definitely.
We used to have we used to go and see live bands all the time, didn't we, James?
We did.
And a good friend of mine, he was actually one of my drum teachers. He used to do a drum solo in his thing. And he always used to do his drum solo. And I was sort of like, I would go up to him and say, what drum solos are going to be tonight? And he would do it on food takeaway length. In other words, how long would it take to order that takeaway?
Right.
And I sort of now use that as a metric
within
games. It's like, what's the downtime like? Well, it's about a McDonald's. So 2-3 minutes. Not too bad.
Gotcha.
This one's a big one. Yeah, this is a proper 5-star Michelin restaurant. This one experience. So we're talking 3 hours, between turns.
Bloody hell.
You know, and that kind of thing. You know, it's like, how long is it if I'm really having to judge a game by length of downtime? How can I class this as a great game?
No,
right?
I 100% agree with this, but the issue is that it's not just the game that does that, it's the players.
Oh, 100%.
It's definitely the players as well. That's the... I mean, not just... Well, again, this goes two ways. It's the players, and it's also how the next player before you, or the player before you, does their turn.
Yeah.
Because if I've planned something ready to go, and then James screws me over and does this, then I've got to go, now I have to have downtime and think for a sec now. And
meaningful decisions.
There we go.
Yeah.
But I see, I agree with Jason on this, because there have been, I'm struggling to think of an example, even though we've played them, more and more games where they have that element of, even though it's not your turn,
you've got something
to do. Oh yeah, absolutely.
That. Yeah. Again, sort of.
But it's the downtime of thinking it, isn't it? I mean, I've done that with Ark Nova plenty of times where Jason screwed me over on that. So
yeah. So a perfect example of what you're talking about there, James. Planet Unknown.
Yes.
There's never a turn that you're doing nothing.
No.
Because it's Ant's turn. Oh yeah, but what he picks affects me, so I need to pay attention.
That's the perfect example, and it's the game I was trying to remember. What is the game we've played recently that did that really? Yeah, Planet Unknown. Basically, no downtime.
I mean, Planet Unknown definitely has that right design for that.
Yeah,
and I agree with that. And let's face it, more games should be like that if you are trying to avoid that downtime part, but. It's not going to be the case all the time, unfortunately.
Or games that, like Jason's already mentioned it, games like Root that have that asymmetric element where it's like you've got phases of the game, but you're all doing stuff.
Yeah. So I think downtime is a big thing for me within games, because I cannot, in all my good heart, say a game is great when I genuinely am sat there unindulged in the game for too long a time. You know, don't get me wrong. I'm not expecting to be like, I finished my turn. Bang, bang, bang. Oh, now it's me again. I don't expect every game to be like that, because then that meaningful decision one suddenly isn't as prevalent.
You're also kind of rushing the game as well, which sometimes you don't want to do. You want to enjoy it as well.
I mean, even if it comes down to, again, we've used it quite a lot as an example, but Scythe, a strategy game, you can use your downtime to plan your next move.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there are elements of that, but we've spoken quite a bit about like being engaged with games and that is the biggest problem I have with excessive downtime. It pulls me back out of the game, because it's just sort of,
because then you're waiting.
Yeah, because you've gone from what am I doing in this game? What's my next turn? To we're only at player 3 out of 5, and well, and that's it. I'm disengaged from the game. It's pulled me out of its theme. It's and that's.
So going with that, what you said, and with what you've said for this one, would player count be another issue?
100%. Yeah, I think it would be. I am quite vocal of the fact that I actually don't like playing games usually out of the 3 or 4 player bracket.
And I was going to bring up, there's a lot of gamers out there that won't go past 4 players.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys were like that as well.
Yeah.
But
I wouldn't say that I wouldn't, but especially if I've already played a game at a certain player count. Let's just say I've played a game at 6 players.
Yeah.
We'll use Scythe as another example. I've played that at 6 players. Would I do it again? Hell no. No, I would not.
Yeah.
That game plays best at 3 or 4. That's where I want to play it. I'll play it at 2. I might consider it at 5 if everyone knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
But damn sure I ain't playing that at 6 or 7. It's too long. The downtime's too long. It's too much of a cluster. It's too much on that one board.
Yeah.
So I do feel that, player count is a big thing. And this is why I've always been very vocal about this trend in doing expansions for 5th players. It's like, I don't want the 5th player stuff. I want the other stuff in it, but I want a third of that expansion, because that third is amazing.
So you would consider
2/3 of this stuff I'm not interested in.
You would consider higher player if the downtime was short, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's, to me, on player count, it's the game has to be specifically designed for that level.
Yeah.
Not like they've shoehorned extra players in. Another one will be Planet Unknown. We've used it as an example already.
Yeah.
The exact that game could go to a higher player count because of its inherent nature of no downtime.
Yeah.
You can play that, however, you could play that at ridiculous player counts as long as you've got enough pieces and match.
Sure.
But it's because there is never a point when no one is not doing something.
There's never going to be a disengagement from that theme.
Yeah.
The immersion that you're in. So yeah, for me, downtime, that's a big thing. It's a horrible trend that we do appear to be coming out of, which I'm happy to see. But there was a trend where we were getting all these big monstrous games, and it was like, oh yeah, I've got 10 things to do on my turn. But there's 5 of us playing that. That means 50 things are going to happen before I get to go again. I'm going to go and watch a movie. You know what I mean? That immediately puts me off of a game. And anything that puts me off of a game means it cannot be a great game.
But then there are gamers who are willing to do that, especially with big box games, because they know that's part of it.
Yeah.
So...
And again, this is...
But I get what you're saying, absolutely.
Yeah. And 100%, this is why we say these things are always subjective.
Yeah.
And reviews are always subjective, because it is the personal opinion of that person.
Yeah.
And it's when you get to that sort of thing, to me, that's... A lot of that, I've mentioned this quite a few times when we've done stuff. It's complexity for complexity's sake, because you get again a good example of a big box game that does go to a sort of to 5 players. Nemesis, still only a couple of actions per turn. It's like you don't need.
But then that's balanced well enough, isn't it? So
it is, but it's still snappy. It still keeps the pace going.
Yeah,
very well. It doesn't overburden you with, you can do, like Jason said, 10 things on your turn, because otherwise you'd be here all night.
Yeah. And the alien would finally get you if you're doing 10 things in your turn.
Yeah.
And that sort of plays into, again, that the downtime. And I guess the one word I was going to mention but never did was flow of a game. Things should always flow. Playing a game should be like going down a stream, nice and gentle but constant. Things should never come to a stop. So that's how I feel that works. So I'm going to bring up my final point, and then I'll hand it over to yourself or James if there's anything extra you guys want to talk about. But this one is the most important thing, hands down. So if this was a top 5, this would be number 1, and that is exceptionally well-produced rules and ease of play.
It was my next thing I was going to bring up.
Yeah,
so,
I was wondering.
You've taken it, yeah.
I was trying to look at your list, and I genuinely didn't see it, but it is on here.
Yeah, rules are on there.
I mean, how important is it? It's the most important component in that entire... I don't care. Give me the world's most rubbish components. As long as the game is really good and you've explained to me how to play the game, I can upgrade the components. That's fine. I don't want to, but I could. I can't upgrade the rules. You know?
You can, depending on which company.
You can house rule it. But no, you yourself have let go of a couple of games because the rules were so out there and ridiculous and...
Or just badly written.
Or just exactly. Or just badly written, very Kickstarter style. And it's a shame, really, because those games could have been pretty good, but we'll never know. Hand on heart, I've done it with games like mine. I mean, I bought a game in Essen 2 years ago. I've still not played because the rules are ridiculous. So it is there. Yeah. It's definitely a thing.
Well, it was Hogs of War, wasn't it? Was the classic example. It's like we were
Darwin's Journey as well.
Yeah, but it's that could be a really good game.
Yeah,
if you've done an absolutely rubbish job of writing your rulebook and explaining to me how to play it, I'm never going to realise how great it is because I've taken one look at the rulebook and gone, no.
Yeah, and the thing is, like when we talk about, I say exceptional, well-produced rules, I don't necessarily mean the rulebook has to be written by an English scholar. It has to be formatted properly. It has to be laid out properly. I need to know that I'm not going to be flipping pages backwards and forwards to try and get rules correct. I want to know that the ease of play is demonstrated to me while reading the rulebook.
Yeah, as if there's one bugbear I have with rulebooks, it's look at the contents page. Oh, the rules on this page, and it's a single paragraph, and right at the end of that paragraph is continue to page 39 for more info. No.
Yeah, give me that information now. If it's important information, put it here.
Yeah.
If it's not important information, guess what? It's not needed. Get rid of it.
Exactly.
Streamline your rulebook. Make it easy to read.
Yeah.
Take out the information you don't need. Ensure that the information that you do need is crystal clear. You should be reading these rulebooks when you type them up or whatever. They need to be really well graphically designed.
And worded properly, at least.
A great looking rule book is fantastic. If I can't read it, what's the point? You know, I love the old school like calligraphy style writing. I think it looks fantastic. I can't read it. So would that be any good in a rule book? It would look lovely. Be useless to me. Yeah. Because I can't read it. You know, that's a game that's not going to survive in my eyes. And, you know, covering with that sort of exceptional rules, you know, I need to know that once I've learnt a game, I can leave it alone for 2-3 months. And then when I come back to it, I should be able to be quick refresh. Boom, done. I'm back in. I know what I'm doing. If I've left the game for 2-3 months and I've got to come back and totally relearn the rules, I kind of get the feeling that either that rulebook wasn't particularly clear on what should and shouldn't be done, or it's a bit too convoluted. And if that's the case, probably not a great game in my eyes. But also tie it in with the graphical design of the board itself and iconography used within games. That should be very clear as to what it is. A game where I'm having to constantly go, what does that do? Yeah. What does this do? What effect do I get from that? Well, it's clearly not doing its function, is it? So it either needs to not be there or it needs to be clearer. Yeah. Better design. And if it meets that, you know, you're already off to a great start, right? Because it's like the game is intuitive. I can play the game logically. I can do all of the above things that I've already mentioned. It leads back into flow of game, all of that kind of stuff. If your rules and iconography are on point, then the game will flow well. Yep. Because you won't have to keep going, oh, what does that do again? Yeah. Flick, 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 flick. There's no downtime either or anything. Yeah. And, you know, I know a lot of people will mention, you know, there are various different languages within the world and every language is very different. Totally understand. 100% agree with that. There's also plenty of people that know how to translate these things professionally in the world. And then when it isn't a carbon copy, like word for word, that's where it's, well, hang on a minute. There's professionals out there that know how to do this. You don't even need professionals. You can bang it through a translation software, just get someone to proofread it. Well, yeah, there is that. But I wouldn't want to take away the you know, and it goes back to like the artwork side of things as well. I don't like AI art because I prefer it to be done by a human. Yes. Who's skilled in doing this. It's much the same with translations. I'd rather know that it's being done by a professional translator who is going to translate properly, not translate it as is, because usually translations as is don't make all that much sense, and we come across that all the time, right? You know, they don't, but that's what I mean by, like, if you're going to use translation software, you just need one person who speaks that language to proofread it and go, that's not grammatically correct. Yeah, change that to this. Yeah, exactly. Again, people all around the world can do that. So I think there's an exceptionally well-produced rulebook and exceptionally well-produced game. As I said, as much as I love really nice components, they're not necessary in a great game. They help, but the rulebook is absolute. If it is not done perfectly, you can't say that game is great. So they're my sort of 5. Have you got anything else that you guys... Rules was literally the last thing on my list, so... Okay, cool. What would you add to the rules, if anything? So what you said was 1. I know a lot of gamers go for it, but if it's your be-all, end-all favourite game of all time, you're not going to forget rules. So let's say we haven't played it for a year. Yeah. And you go back to it and go, oh, I forgot how to do this. Yeah. That's another issue with me. Yeah. I know a lot of us do it because we play a lot of games. We do, yeah. But if it's one of your games that stands out, again, Scythe, Distilled, whatever, that you absolutely friggin' love, then you would always remember those rules because it's your game, it's your be-all, end-all. Especially if you've learnt it properly in the first place and it's been really clear as to what you're doing. Sometimes, I mentioned it very quickly, terminology. Like there was one where we had a game where I can't remember... It's kind of worded like, so is it that person taking the damage or am I taking the damage to do this? That's another issue with me with rules side as well. And other terminologies in rules like push and stuff as well is another one. Like where does it determine how it is? Again, it's just a little niggle, but rules, like you say, are practically like the blueprint of the game. They need to be... Yeah, ambiguous rules. That's a... Probably another. You've just reminded me there. It's like that was He-Man. That's right. Yeah, there we go. And push. Okay, so what constitutes a push? Yeah, because a push to the side or I'm in front of you and I'm pushing you, but you've gone sideways. That to me is not a push. Push is I'm in front of you, I am pushing you. Whereas I think there were certain parts in there where it's like, oh, I can push them towards me. Well, no, that's a pull.
That's a pull, yeah.
Yeah, that's not a push. What are you talking about?
So yeah, just little things, because like going back to Terrascape, like the terminology like discover and search sound the same, but they are two different things. Yeah. So it's just the little things like that, clearer rules, make it out that it's easier, because I like I said, I've gone through so many games of mine where I've just not bothered over the rule book itself, and I've probably missed out on some great games over this. Yep. So yeah.
Now I'm in a bit of a situation now, and I know, Ant, you're very similar to me, where you're sort of streamlining your collection quite a bit.
Yeah.
And these things that we've talked about today, these have come into my mind when it's come to the decision of what am I selling? What do I class as a great game? I've got a lot of games that are still left, but do I class all of them as great? No, I don't.
No.
Are they all very, very good games? Are they some of my favorite games? Hell yeah, they are.
Absolutely.
But, these kind of things are ones that I definitely think about when I'm thinking about what games do I want in my collection? Because I want the best in my collection. Doesn't mean I'm going to stop buying games, because at the end of the day, I don't know a lot of these are the case until I've got them and I've played them. What it does mean is if they're not meeting these standards, then they've got a higher chance of being on that resale pile far quicker.
Yeah.
As I try to trim the fat in the collection, and metaphorically, I feel like I am trimming fat all the time, so I don't need to diet. So when everyone says, are you losing the fat? Yes, I am, 100% from the board game collection. So, but James, is there anything else you want to add to things that you think about that make games great?
I think we've collectively covered a lot of the good points there.
Anthony, what about you?
No, that's it, mate.
I'm sorry I gave you a bit of a hard topic to really think about here, because I know James, again, you were saying a lot of it just kept going back to it's about the game group that you're playing with.
And it would, all joking aside, is a really good game group can make a not so great game great, because you have fun playing it.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it can also happen in vice versa as well. Like you can have a really bad game group that make a great game awful.
Yeah.
100% we have to think about that when we do talk about games, because it's like, is the game actually as good as we think it is, or was it the people we were playing with? I have the luck where I have quite a few different game groups that I play games with, and a lot of the time I'll play the same game with those different groups, so I get to experience that.
Yeah.
With the different groups, so that makes it easy for me to sort of look past is it the people I'm playing with or not? But yeah, I think it is very hard to really try and pinpoint if a game is great or not. And I think the test of time is another one of those things that you do have to add in to the great game category. It's like a brand new game comes out next week. We play it, we love it, we think it's a great game. Are we still talking about it next year? Probably not.
No.
Therefore, it's not a great game, right?
Yeah.
It can't be a great game if you don't continue playing it.
Continue playing it or talk about it even.
Exactly. So, thank you very much for having the discussion, guys.
No, it was good. Not too bad. Yeah. There was a bit, differences every now and then, or a couple of questions brought up. So,
and the best thing is, for once, we're ending a topical where we are kind of all agreeing, because you can't really be wrong with this kind of topic.
No, because it is entirely subjective.
Exactly.
And very personal. I said we were going to get very personal. We now know that Anthony likes his theme and his mechanisms, especially. That adds to his great game. We know that James just likes people somehow. And that I like to dive into, evidently, the board game design aspect of it. Because none of my stuff really was on the surface. It was all done in that design phase. Mainly because I feel like, designers should put the work in. I'm buying their game, damn it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. One last one, actually, that's just popped into my head. It, goes kind of back to the whole immersion thing, is I think of a game that I haven't personally played which is TI4, which people have told me takes a hell of a long time to play.
Yes.
And the idea of sitting around a board game for that long is off-putting to me.
Yeah.
But by the same token, there have been board games that I've played, Nemesis being one, where you've got so into it that you finish the game and you go, wow, have we been here that long?
Yeah.
Sort of thing. So games that make you lose track of time, if it makes you lose track of time because you're enjoying yourself so much, that's got to be
And
one.
this is what I was saying about a game that delivers the experience.
Yeah.
If you are living that experience and then not realizing what the time is, then the game has done its job.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't
That's what I was
think,
trying to get at the beginning.
I don't think, despite the fact that its theme and the style of game it is should be right up my street,
Yeah.
I don't think I could ever play TI4 because I think, again, from we've mentioned, I reckon the downtime in that is absolutely horrific.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what? I'm glad I finally thought about what I wanted to say. I've been thinking about the whole episode ever since Ant was talking about it, and and trying to give the example. I was like, I can't remember what it was I want to say, but when you were talking about it, I was like, no, I've always said if a game can take me out of real life, because I play games as an escape from real life.
Absolutely the same.
And that ultimately, do you know what? I'm amazed I didn't put it on my list here, the experience side of it, because I've always said it. That is the most important thing for me. The game has to take me out of real life because that's why I'm playing the game, is to get away from my real life and just do something else for a while. That's how I unwind. So that's the most important thing, I guess, when it comes to games.
A lot of people do it. I mean, video game community does that just to escape. It's like, why do we play games? I know it's for entertainment the majority of the time, but it's also escapism, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. So, I guess normally we would do like a final thoughts, but there isn't really a final thoughts to this, is it?
Well,
Other
apart
than
from
have your own opinions.
Everyone's their own gamer. Love what you love. It's your choice. It's your game. Just enjoy yourself with it.
I hope we've sort of clarified, I guess, some of the questions we do get, or me especially, because
it's your show.
It's usually aimed at me, because I'm very opinionated and so on and so forth. But, I like to think that we are quite open about how we feel about games. And again, reiterate, everything is personal. If you feel that you're...
Yeah, we're not speaking for everyone out there, are we?
If you think your tastes blend well with mine, then you're likely going to want to listen to my opinion. But you might be closer to Ant, might be closer to James, even though James is always wrong.
Well, he's agreed with you quite a bit on this episode, so you're saying you're wrong as well.
Well, yeah.
And on that bombshell, ladies and gentlemen.
Indeed. It's like the Top Gear trio now. That's what this is. But yeah, anything else you guys want to say before we bugger off ski?
No, I think we're done.
Excellent, because we've got some planning to do, haven't we? Because we
do.
There's an event coming up in 3
weeks.
Oh no, I believe it's exactly a month from today. We're there. Yeah. I guess we can give it away. Next week's episode, we'll be talking about preparations for UK Games Expo. So if it is your first time going to Expo, we're going to give you a few tips.
Nice.
As to what you should do, and especially what you shouldn't do. Having done this for a few years now, I think we've got a few things that we can talk about. So yeah, there you go. That's next week's episode.
Excellent.
And until then, I have been Jason.
I've been James.
I've been Ant.
And you have been listening to the Meeple Minded podcast. Join us next week for more tabletop gaming goodness. Ta-ta and goodbye.